What's up, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of the podcast. On this episode, I'm going to change it up a little bit. It's going to be kind of a bit different to what things we may be talking about usually, but I will connect it all in, so don't worry. And what I want to talk about is why my approach to my dog's health has changed and how this can actually help you, okay? And how it can help you to understand your own therapy, your own rehab, and how to rebuild the body, okay? So I was with a friend recently, and we were chatting about our dogs. We were chatting about the health of the dogs. Now, we actually have 3 dogs at home. So we have 2 sheep dogs and we have an Alsatian. And anyone who's had sheep dogs before, or a border collie, will know that they have a lot of energy. You kind of need to, they're like obviously bred for working, but you need to be doing things with them every day. So they need to work, run around, and do different things to stay healthy. And if you don't, they'd just be bouncing around at the house. Okay, so they're built to be outside and built to stay active. Now, they're really good. We have them for the farm, but they also kind of head off on their own adventures, which is a bit annoying. But even though they shouldn't, but in general, they come back. Now, the Alsatian is different, okay? Because Alsatians, would you believe, like an Alsatian is the English name for, say, a German Shepherd, or in our case, it's a Belgian Shepherd mix. So, Alsatians were actually bred as sheepdogs originally, would you believe? But now they're used obviously more in the guards, armed forces, and a lot of it is down to because they're resilient, very, very loyal, and an intelligent dog as well. And in many cases, they are being bred now for guard dogs at a house, okay? Because they're obviously very protective, but as a result of this, it makes them more protective as well. And for us, it's a lovely thing to have Callie around the house and to have your own, because we live at a pub and it's nice to have it there, obviously. But the thing is, they need stimulation and they need a lot of movement. And this is actually one of the issues that we ran into with our last one. Our last dog was called Kuba, not to convince you. And I'll explain that in a minute, okay? I'll come back to why it is. But it's really important to understand these, I guess, concepts going forward, because any animal is the same in terms of their physiological adaptation. Not anyone, but they obviously have change. There are obviously changes, let's say, but they work off the stress and adaptation system, okay, and loading strategies. And the human body is the same as well. It works off of, you stress it and it adapts. Really quick, guys, just to break away from this episode for a second, if you're somebody who has been dealing with a back injury, you can join now our Back Pain Back to Exercise group program, where we have been consistently helping people to return to activity and get back to a pain-free life that they love. Just check the link in the description at the end of this podcast. Now, even though Alsatians are generally a guard dog, and this one is staying around the house in a lot of cases, they're lightning fast and they're extremely athletic. Okay, and what happens if you don't keep them active is they'll start to decondition pretty quick. Okay, they'll lose their athleticism. Now, Alsatians are known to have bad hips because it's like a breathing thing and a genetic thing, but they have hip dysplasia, and it's more common as they age. It's really interesting how this develops, and I actually saw it with the last one we had with Kuba, and it was sad to see her decondition so fast. But she used to be brought on, let's say, short walks. Everything was chill. Mostly spent her time around the grounds of the house. Okay, excellent guard dog though. Spent a lot of time sitting down. That's a big issue. Or barking at anything that walks by. If anyone has had an Alsatian, you will relate to that. But now here's the catch, okay? So this is something that I want to try explain. And I'm going to use Kuba as an example. Okay, so if a dog is prone to living as a guard dog, there's a predominance to be aggressive towards intruders, you could say. Now, from my observation, when you're watching them as they be aggressive and as they posture and as they kind of get into this place where they want to look dangerous or look bigger, what they'll do is they'll put all their weight through their front legs. And what that does is it bulks out their shoulders and puts them in this position where they can attack if they need to. So it's an animalistic instinct to make them look bigger. And if you saw them, as you probably have seen, they do look pretty intimidating. It's great. They're aligned exactly what they need to be doing. But the other side of this is because they're bred to have a certain appeal of this kind of slopes back in a lot of cases, not all of them, but a lot of them are, when they favour this position to look big, to put weight through the front legs, the back legs become less necessary. Okay, so they actually start to weaken very fast. And this is from my observation of, we've had a couple of different Alsatians over the years. This is my observation of it. So they get really strong and really built up in the front. And then if you watch them down along their back, they become a lot weaker in the back. And I was looking at it and I was watching it, and kind of as Kuba passed away and we got our new one, we got Callie, all with C's obviously, seems to be a running theme. You could see that as a puppy, they have great build. Okay, so it's as they age that this is obviously something that becomes more apparent. And you'll see this in all dogs. They all have their genetic dispositions, I guess, susceptibility to certain issues. And I guess when I was looking at it, my question was, if we can identify this pattern where the hips are getting weaker in these dogs, how can we actually reduce the likelihood of this happening in future? Okay, because it looks like, obviously there's a genetic component, but it looks like there is also a huge behavioral component to that change. Okay, so future pacing is a massive thing here. This is something that we do literally with all of our clients, future pacing, understanding, okay, what direction are we trying to go in? How can we identify the patterns that would most likely get you in that direction? And then how can we build on that? What are the inputs that you can put in to then develop yourself so that you get the outcome of what you're trying to get? And if you stay on this path for 6 months or 6 years, and we start to plan around that, what does that look like? Okay, it's like when you go to the gym, you want to lose weight. It's the same with injuries. It's the same with when you're rebuilding the body or when you are working on the nervous system. It's the same principle applies. It's that stress and adaptation system, but you need to future pace. You need to see the patterns and you need to try figure out what inputs are going to give you the biggest chance that this outcome is the one that you want. Now, to jump back to Kuba really quick. So the obvious example here, okay, when you ask, how could you reduce the likelihood of this happening? Really, it's strengthening, okay? You would expect that. They're weak, let's get them strong again. But unfortunately, when I'm going to the gym in Galway to hit a leg session, I can't exactly bring her with me as a spotter, get her under the bar or anything like that. It doesn't work that way. So what I need to do is look at other ways of how to build it up, to build this robustness, to build coordination and strength, stability, and literally everything in between. Because the thing is, with Callie, I want her to be more mobile as she ages. Okay, I haven't seen the old patterns that developed, and how Kuba, lovely dog, really good, but she didn't actually live to that old an age. Obviously, she's a bigger dog. Generally, they don't, but she did decondition pretty quickly. And when she started to decondition, it was very difficult to pull her back again. That was the thing. We were trying to rehab her, and it was the pattern had kind of been developed, so it was more challenging to fix that after. It felt like, anyway, because we did try to get it up and going. So with Callie, as we're saying, we're trying to get her to be mobile as she ages. And what we need to look at is it needs to come into her training, okay? Into the prehab for older age, let's say. And the same thing goes for you, okay? If you start to let the body decondition significantly, if you let it get to a place that it takes complete control of you, that you have no control over it, you kind of have to crawl your way back out of it. It's challenging to come up out of it. And that's why when I'm looking at these dogs now, I'm looking at, okay, well, if the goal is longevity, we need to find ways that we can do this consistently over time. We can't get them to the gym. They're not going to go to the gym. Okay, and this might be the same for you. You might be like, look, I'm not going to the gym. As certain people that jump on board with me just say, I'm not running. Like, that's not something that I do. And I say, perfect. Let's find other ways to build on it. And the thing is that when you find these activities that you enjoy, the goal of longevity becomes much easier to achieve or to work towards. And it's an infinite game, longevity. You're trying to build into it all the time. It's not something that you achieve and then you stop doing it. So when we know we're playing an infinite game, what we need to do is we need to find something we love. Because if you don't love what you do, you're not going to keep it up. And what you're trying to change your perspective of here is that exercise is not something that you have to do. It's something that you want to do because you notice the mental benefits of it after. You notice how good you feel. You notice the physical benefits over time. So when we jump back and we look at Callie, we look at the dog, there's a lot less factors that you have to control for in terms of even the conscious mind and that. Like, she'll generally do what you tell her to do, which is pretty nice. But if the goal is obviously to prehab her hips, and I use the word prehab to rebuild, to get stronger over time, I'm obviously putting the focus on the heavier stuff, like a heavy focus on all the obvious, which is the foundational stuff, walking, running and sprinting. If I was to really think about how we can focus it in, it's funny how I did this. I started to look at slow motion videos of dogs, slow motion videos of Alsatians, and seeing what type of movements they do and how you can get them to push through the back legs more. And that's exactly what we're doing. So on top of all that, running, jumping and sprinting, we're putting a real emphasis into climbing and a real emphasis into jumping and chasing things uphill. Throw a ball over a wall where she used to jump over and climb to catch it. Throw it up the side of a mountain where she has to climb to get that as well. Holding it above head height where she has to jump up. Fake throws where it's like an agility thing. Okay, and I will tie this in. Anything I can do to specifically put more effort into the back legs. And then you get spikes in effort, and you also do longer duration stuff, with longer walks and longer runs. And the goal here altogether is just keeping strong and mobile as she ages and reducing the chance of these hip issues, because if she's strong and stable, coordinated, well able to use her body, you're reducing the likelihood overall of these age-based, fragility-based issues and injuries kicking up. Which brings me back to you. If you've had injuries in the past that you are avoiding working on and you're just letting them get weaker, like maybe you're not bending your back in case you hurt it, you need to start thinking, what's this going to be like in 5 years' time if I leave it like this? If you are not putting weight-bearing exercise through your knees and your hips, how do you think that they are going to age? Now, this will be for a lot of people, this is going to be a huge switch in your belief system to actually achieve this. Because if you don't do anything, what will you be like in 6 years' time? Okay, and there is a deeper element to this. So we need to look at the body with this perspective that if we load it, we stress it in a way, we'll use the word load. If we load it and we give it an opportunity to recover, that it's going to get stronger and it's going to get more efficient at what you do. And so many people look at it the other way, and they'd say this to me all the time, and it's I have to say, it's one of my pet peeves. It really is. When someone says, is that bad for your knees? Is that bad for your back? That idea, that perception is looking at the body like it doesn't recover, that things just break down. It's the idea that the body is a machine and that certain amount of turns before it wears out. But we're forgetting that we're living in this adapting organism, and instead avoiding things because of pain and continually trying to play it safe with every movement and every activity, that is going to come back to haunt you in years to come. And it's why I really dislike when people say to me, and I hear this all the time, when we were younger, we didn't know what we were doing. Think of the damage that we would have done to our bodies. Firstly, relax, chill out. Probably nothing too serious, okay, if you're here. Second, if that is the case, why are you not working on that now? You have an opportunity to change that. If that's the way you felt, you have an opportunity to change that right now. So do you prefer to be the person who tells everyone around them how broken they are? Or do you prefer to be the one who does what they want, when they want, and doesn't have these restrictions put upon them? Be someone who actually achieves in their life and achieves as they go on in life. And then at a certain stage, you are that role model. You're the person that when you were younger that you would look up to today. You're the person that your kids would look up to, and your brothers and sisters and your family, your friends. That's the difference. And these people they're the type of people I love to work with because they're decision makers, they're leaders. When we understand that the body is always adapting, and it's up to you to decide, do you want it to be getting stronger or weaker? That's your decision to make. Which brings me on to one of my last points. The easiest way that you can do this for yourself, outside of building on weak points, as I was talking about with the hips or the back or the shoulder, and specifically through rehab, is to find ways to rehab doing things that you love. This is why I put so much of an emphasis with clients that I'm working with towards some form of goal. And here's a really simple individual example of my own case. For those who don't know, I tore my ACL 2 years ago now at this stage, in November. And I was able to avoid surgery, and I was able to get back into exercise using this exact same system. So what I did is I used the gym to strengthen it, and I used football to test it. And I have a YouTube video if you want to check it out. I talk through everything in more detail. I'll link it in the description of this podcast. But then in the off season, this was a part. This was because if I'm going to have these ways of training and these perspectives on training, I better be able to do it myself. So in the off season, I said I was going to go skiing or snowboarding. I said snowboarding really. And everyone said, don't do it. They said, don't go in case you hurt your knee. It's going to be bad for your knee. Long term, it's not the right thing. People said that to me. But I knew that if I managed it well, it would be one of the best forms of rehab because of the constant holding of the position. The turbulence of hitting these dodgy parts of the stone and the constant recorrections that would need to be made. And overall, it's testing the ACL in one of the most specific positions. So your ACL limits anterior translation. And when you're locked into two boots in a snowboard, you're in this squat position, and it feels like when you're turning left and right and you're rotating your knees. So your knee has to be strong in like these minute little angles and ranges of motion. So I knew that if I could just correct it, and I did have some times, especially at the start, like the first day, I did have a time that it clicked in and out, and it was a real scare. And I knew then, okay, right, there's a physical element here that needs to be improved. So then once I can control the mindset and I don't let that get a hold of me, I'll be able to keep building on this. And it worked out. Like it worked extremely well, and I got through the entire snowboarding season. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do that. You need to do a snowboard season. But you just need to stop being so afraid of everything. And instead, you need to start thinking of loading strategies, as I was saying, like snowboarding, like playing football, like gym, to get you back to where you want to be. I'm using loading strategies to improve the health of our dogs, to reduce the likelihood of fragility as they're aging. We've been using loading strategies to get people with back injuries back to running. We use a loading strategy to get John, who's a high-performing chef who had a bulging disc, back to running a marathon and then doing a high rocks. And now he's a role model for his kids where they work out with him when he's doing his workouts. We use loading strategies to get Tracy, who's a gymnast who had a back injury, to become a world champion in her category. And we've been using loading strategies to get people with arthritis back to tennis, back to paddle, back to running, back to football. You need to start using loading strategies to your advantage to improve your health, to improve the health of your body. And that body of yours is the one thing that you have for your entire life. Now, if you start working on it, you will reap the rewards, but you need to start working on it now. If not, you'll have to live as the person who tells everyone around them that they can't do things. So instead of avoiding everything, really start looking at becoming that person who's a role model to those around them. And that motivation, that discipline over time will add up and you will get there. Now, if you have any questions on it, if you don't know how to do it or where to get started, you can shoot me a message. I'll be always here to help you out. And if you want to, if it's something that you're saying, okay, this is something I want to do, I want to work towards it, and you want to dedicate time to it, I'd be delighted to take you in if you were a fit to our one-to-one program. So we have a select one-to-one program. And what you'll do is you'll work directly with me, and I'll take complete control of your programming. And what we'll work on is overcoming these issues and getting you back to where you want to be. So we take on, generally, people, high achievers who are willing to put in work and to become a person that the person that they believe they are. Maybe their body isn't allowing them to be that way right now, but they know in their heart and soul that that's who they are. And in our select program, it's a deep dive. It's into you, it's into your patterns, it's into your behaviors, it's into your beliefs. And what we do, I guess, overall, if we kind of take a step back and look at it, is, if I was breaking it down, is we do add the structure, we give you a lot of clarity on where you're trying to go with objectives and goals, and then it's just about making sure we keep you accountable, jumping on calls, laying out action plans, and making sure that we continue to tick things off. So to make sure that you achieve what you set out to achieve. All you need to do is just show up and do the work. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, as I said, we're open right now to taking people on. So just check the link in the bio to learn more. What we'll do is we'll always set up a call first. To get into the select program, we have to set up a call first. We have to see if we're a good fit for each other. And then we'll make a decision what's the best way about it. So if you check the link in the description, check out the testimonials that we had and book a call, and we can get straight down to it. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a message, RobbieCassidy_ on Instagram, or an email, info@themobilitytutor.com, or even on LinkedIn if you want to do at Robbie Cassidy. And the very last thing is, if you want to understand, now this podcast helps you to understand loading strategies, helps you to understand, okay, if you want to get something stronger, if you're deconditioning, if you're getting weaker, if you need to rebuild the body, you need to look at how you load it and then how you recover. Okay? Another podcast that can be really good to listen to after this one is one that I put out very recently, a couple of podcasts back, maybe 202 or 203, and it's called Most Back Pain Fails for High Achievers. Check out that podcast. It'll help you to understand this in more detail. Loading strategy is one side of it. That's the stress side. High achievers are really good at the stress side. So in that podcast, we talk even about the recovery side. So check that podcast out next. And if you enjoyed this podcast, if you got some benefit from it, I would honestly really appreciate if you could rate it at the top. Right now, I'm looking to get up 1,000 to 8,000 ratings, which is a lot. And we're way off it. But yeah, I want to get there. Once I start getting up there, I'll be able to get on more guests, and I'll be able to provide better episodes for you guys too, and girls. So honestly, really appreciate you listening in. Thank you so much. I've been getting great feedback on the podcast. It's really good to be back up, have it going again. We're on episode like 205 now. I think it's just crazy to think about, but it's one of my favorite things. I love doing it. I love putting these down, and that's why when I started with this one, talking about my dogs, like I've been thinking about that one for a long time, or a couple of days, I'd say, putting it together. And I just wondered how I could cover both sides of it. So just show you that the strategy that works with the dog can work with humans. And if you start to apply it, you can make big change in your life. But I'd love to hear what you thought of it as well. But that's all for me right now. Okay, I'll leave you at that. I'll give you a chance to sit, recover, and work with that. Think of your loading strategies. You can get better. You can improve the body. You just gotta get to work on it. That's all for me, and I will chat to you all at the same time next week. Have a good one.